Stop chasing people. Stop chasing love. When we chase people, we set ourselves up on the wrong foot. We start off on the wrong foot. We come from a place of neediness. We come from a place of desire where we require this person. We need them in our lives, as opposed to coming from a place of stability, of security, rather than insecurity, where we don't need someone, but we're willing to have another person in our lives. Coming from a place of need, chasing people, chasing love, ultimately sets the relationship up on a poor course. It sets the relationship up off on the wrong foot. And what you end up getting is you end up getting a lot of troubles, a lot of problems within the relationship. Because if one person is always requiring the other person to be there for them, to help them through difficult things, to listen to their problems, this person most likely tends to be emotional, and they're putting this emotion on the other person. This causes issues within the relationship. It causes issues for the other person, and thus ultimately causes issues for the relationship. It hurts the relationship. Additionally, on top of that, coming from a place of need, being needy, is highly unattractive. This is something that most people may not want to hear, but it is the case. As unfortunate as it may be, most people don't like when someone is needy towards them. They don't want to be with someone that is needy, that always needs their attention, that always needs their help with something. And especially for men, this is very, very unattractive. Women don't want a man who needs them at all times and needs them to help him with every single problem that he comes across and needs them to help him with all of his emotions all of the times. Sure, women want to be your support, but they also want the man to be stable, to be strong. Additionally, this works the opposite, but it's not generally as bad, at least from my perspective, because us as men, there's something attractive about a damsel in distress, that we can just swoop in and save her life, essentially. Help her, make her happier. But even still, if the woman possesses too much neediness, calling us all the time, texting us all the time, crying all of the time, being overly emotional all the time, this is unattractive, even for men. A lot of times, our desire to chase somebody, to need somebody, comes from some sort of internal turmoil that we're dealing with. Maybe we're sad. Maybe we're depressed. Maybe we're angry inside. Maybe we've just dealt with, or we're dealing with some sort of unfortunate situation in our lives. Maybe in our families. Maybe someone passed away. All of these things that can ultimately bring us down emotionally. And in those moments, many of us, and it's natural to do so, want to feel better. We feel bad inside, and so we want to feel better. So what do we naturally do? We look externally. We look outside of ourselves, something outside of us to be able to bring that into our lives so that we can feel better within. For example, a lot of people will chase drugs. This isn't always the case. I'm not saying that folks always go to drugs when they have some sort of internal turmoil and they don't feel good inside, but some folks do. And so they chase that hit, that drug, something that makes them feel better. whether it be something that's most of us at this point may not even consider a drug, something like marijuana or alcohol, or something as heavy as heroin or meth. We chase that hit. We chase something to make us feel better inside, because inside we don't feel good. Well, a lot of times we'll do that with people. We'll chase people. We'll chase love and desire from others so that we can feel better about ourselves, about our lives, so that we can be happier inside. And this is not something that most people are conscious of. We're not taught in schools how to take care of ourselves emotionally, how to become happy, how to deal with our problems. This is one of the biggest failures of the school system, particularly here in the United States, is that we don't teach our children how to handle their emotions, how to be mentally, emotionally healthy. We teach a little bit of physical health, but even still not much. But we absolutely do not teach emotional health. And so naturally, when we feel sad, we look for external forces to make us feel better. Well, a lot of times, that internal turmoil, it comes from something from childhood. Many folks, many experts, scientists, psychologists, psychiatrists, it's been written in books, it's been studied, have said this. That a lot of times, the way that we feel, it ultimately stems from something in childhood. Maybe something in childhood is bothering us. Sure, maybe at this moment we feel sad because we just broke up with somebody. But maybe there's some sort of connection to our childhood in there. Maybe one of our parents left us when we were children. Our parents got divorced. One of them stayed and the other didn't. And so we carry on this burden throughout our lives, and we carry it on into our relationships with other people. And ultimately, it leads to problems within the relationship, like we've already mentioned. So a lot of times this internal turmoil stems from childhood issues, coming from a place of need. So, what do we ultimately do? We ultimately have to make ourselves happy first. We cannot come from a place of need. We have to not need anyone. We have to not need love. Be open to love. Be accepting of love. But if the love is not there, if someone is not there, we're okay. We have to get to a point where we are okay with ourselves, where we create our own happiness, where we don't need to bring anyone into our lives. And when we do that, we put ourselves in a position where the relationships that we do end up going into can become stronger. We can set those relationships up on the right course so that they can last long term and ultimately succeed. When you don't come from a place of need, you come from a place of stability. And stability means you have security within, not insecurity. You don't feel okay, but security. You are secure with yourself internally. You come from a place of stability. And this is highly attractive. So if neediness is highly unattractive, stability is highly attractive. We're all attracted to people who seem to be happy, who seem to have their lives in order, who seem to not require anyone to be in their lives in order for their lives to be happy, joyous, prosperous, successful. We look to these people. We look to these people in awe. A lot of times we want to be much more like these people. So when we end up coming from a place of stability, this makes us more attractive. Now, in the world, it's human nature, we attract those to us who are similar to us. So if we are needy and unstable, we tend to attract those, not always, this isn't a rule that happens 100% of the time, but majority of the time, we will attract those people to us that are similar to us. So if we're needy, we're going to be around people we're going to attract people to us that are needy. Because those people are going to find comfort with us. And we're going to find comfort with those people. We're going to see them as similar. We like people who are like us. But if we're stable, if we don't need anybody, if we come from a place of stability, of security rather than insecurity, we're going to begin to attract people who are also stable or relatively stable. We're going to attract people because they're going to feel comfortable with us. We're going to feel comfortable with them. We're going to understand one another. We're going to see more eye to eye. We're going to be more attracted to one another, whether that's relationships or just even friendships. And so what ultimately happens is that when you are stable, when you come from a place of stability, you end up attracting people who are also in an emotionally stable place. And what you end up doing when you have these two people come together is they set themselves up for a relationship that can last much longer. Again, it's not 100%. Things may come up. It's not necessarily going to be a perfect match, but they set themselves up for success rather than when two people who are coming from emotionally unstable places, they set themselves up for failure in their relationship. So what do we want to do? We ultimately have to get to the point where we create our own happiness. It's cliche, and we've all heard it, but happiness comes from within. This is something that's taken a long time for me to learn, but ultimately I've realized it in the last few years, and it is absolutely true. When you get to a place where you are happy with yourself, you are confident with yourself, you make yourself happy, you find joy with yourself, you don't need anybody. You get to a place where you don't need anyone. You may like to have people. We all want to have people in our lives. We don't want to be hermits. We don't want to be alone. But we come from a place of, I'd like to have somebody in my life. Yeah, sure. It'd be nice. It'd be interesting. It'd spice my life up even more. But I don't need that person. I don't need anybody. I'm okay with myself. I'm okay. I can create my own happiness. This is why a lot of times people jump from relationship to relationship. Because they don't feel good inside. And so they continue to look for that external thing, a person in this case, to make them feel better inside. They get out of one relationship, and there's a lot of internal issues going on, want somebody else, and they get somebody else into their lives. And that ends up repeating over and over and over and over again. And they don't find success. We have to ultimately get to a place where we don't need anyone. What's the best way to do so? The way that has worked for me is to ultimately take time for yourself. Take time, and this can be anywhere from a month, several months, years, depending on the person. Take time to take care of yourself. Dig in deep. What are the things that are bothering you? Begin to understand, if this surface level thing, this is why this thing over here bothered me, and that's why I'm sad today. Okay. But why did that thing over there make you sad? Is it somehow connected to something in your past? Is that something that you can dig into and begin to understand where it comes from? And you have to do the work, and it's difficult. And a lot of folks maybe can't do it on their own, and so they go to a therapist, which is absolutely fine. But once you begin to dig deep into this, you can begin to pull these weeds out from their roots in order to ultimately overcome the issues. And once you begin to pull those weeds out, you overcome those issues, you begin to truly feel better. You begin to truly feel happier. You begin to live from a position of stability rather than insecurity. And it's difficult. It's hard. And we want to be with people. But sometimes it's best to take a little bit of time alone. Try to understand yourself. Figure yourself out. Why do I feel this way? What is going on? Why do I have these issues? What's making me unhappy? And to learn how to create your own happiness so that you don't need anybody. And once you get to that position, then you really set yourself up for success in your relationships in the future. Now, how do you make yourself happy? This is a topic for another video, but ultimately it comes down to accepting yourself, it comes down to building your own confidence so that you can ultimately come from a place of stability rather than need. So, stop chasing people. Stop chasing love. You don't need anyone. The only thing you need in this world is yourself. And if you can provide yourself with all the love that you think you need from someone else, you'll be as happy as can be.